to another episode of In Her Purpose Show, a platform where we feature female game changers who have paved the way on succeeding their goals and continue to inspire at the same time. I am your host, Mafe Yunon Velasco, and this show is super close to my heart because I am able to learn and grow weekly with two amazing women that I adore so much, the founders and also authors of In Her Purpose book and company. So honored to introduce to you all, first and foremost, Jen Redondo Marquez, who is a game changer herself, working in the tech world and serving as a mentor for Collective Hustle and Filipino Americans in Silicon Valley Tech, FASTA. And of course, Rose Buado, mother of two, businesswoman, mentor to young women entrepreneurs, inspirational speaker, and manager of the Philharmonic. Hello, ladies.
Hi, how are you, Mafe?
Such a special treat because this is the first time I've seen you in one box on our show. So I'm glad that you guys are together, reunited again during this past week. So today we have such an amazing special guest, and let me introduce her before we really catch up. We have the amazing Ruby Ibarra. So just to give a background on Ruby, she is a rapper, a spoken word artist from the Bay Area, California, USA. Ruby released her debut album, Circa 91, at the end of 2017 and has since toured across the United States at universities, empowerment conferences, the music venues, and spaces such as National Mall in DC, the Getty Center, and the D. Young Museum. Ruby has also been featured on notable publications such as NPR, Huffington Post, South China Morning Post, Buzzfeed, XXL or XXL Magazine. Sorry, I hope I said that right. And also was featured in a Grammys, MasterCard commercial and campaign with R&B singer Caesar. Ruby's music is available on digital platforms and can be heard in several museum exhibits, films, and television features. And of course, I'm also excited to share that Ruby is also a KUMU ambassador with weekly shows that empowers music, life, and inspiring people. So without further ado, let's bring this beautiful, amazing woman, Ruby Ibarra. Hello and welcome.
Hey. Hi, Mafe. Hi, Rose. Hi, Jen. Hi, how are you doing today?
Good. We're so excited to have you. Thank you for making some time for us.
No, thank you so much for having me. When Mafe said that you guys were interested in featuring me on this platform, I was excited because I've been actually tuning in. I don't know if you guys have noticed, like with the interview that you guys did with Evelyn, I really enjoyed the conversations. And I think overall, it's just, to me, just super dope to see three amazing, powerful women such as yourselves that for you guys extending your platform to other women who are empowering the community and doing, great work all around. So thank you for having me today.
Thanks for joining us on a Friday night.
I mean, there's nothing else to do these days. And what would I rather do than be hanging out with you guys? This is where the party's at.
I know.
Right there.
Yes. So I am so excited. Romeo called me earlier today and he said, Ruby told me that that she was going to be a guest on your show. And he's like, I didn't even know that. Well, yes, Ruby is going to be on our show today. So I'm super honored to have you. And I know it's been a while since we caught up, but for our audience who may not know who you are, can you start by telling our audience who you are and what inspired you to become a musician and how you're able to balance being a musician and a scientist at the same time?
Oh, wow. That's such a heavily loaded question. I mean, like, I don't even know where to begin. Usually when people ask me like for my story and my journey, I always trace it back to the Philippines. It's where I was born. And it's really, I think, where my story began. And even to this day, obviously with the kind of music that I do, I always still connect it back to, where I come from. And that place is Tacloban City, Philippines. I was born in the Visayas, and then my family and I moved to the Bay Area when I was about 5 years old. And so I've grown up here in the Bay since then. And when it came to music, I attribute that to having my initial roots in the Philippines, because I remember before we even moved to the US, my mom was already listening to hip hop. Shout out to my mom. I don't know if she's tuned in today. I told her the time that we'd be streaming, but it was her who introduced me to this artist named Francis Magalona. And I like to share, this story each time, my origins in hip hop is asked, because he was really the first hip hop artist that my ears ever heard. And I think it really is just a blessing that it was him out of every artist that that was around at the time, because even to this day when I listen to his music, a lot of the themes still very relevant. Like when I talk about things like colorism, Francis M did that in the 80s. He did that in the 90s, and it's still a lot of topics that I think our communities still need to think critically about and need to talk about. And so after I heard an artist like Francis M, of course, when me and my family moved to the Bay Area, I was introduced to West Coast music. So this was the 1990s. And of course, during this time, I think, artists like Snoop, Dre, Ice Cube, they were like heavily on the scene, heavily on the radio. And I think not a lot of people know this, but the Friday soundtrack was actually like my Christmas gift, like maybe when I was in kindergarten or something. That was like the very first CD that was given to me. It was the Friday soundtrack. And honestly, since then, that collection, when it comes to hip hop music, that collection just grew exponentially. And so, my origins being in the Philippines and then moving to the Bay Area, I think I couldn't have created a better story, for myself as an artist, than to have those kinds of artists as my starting point, in terms of my introduction to hip hop, because that led me to discovering artists like Pac and then eventually Lauryn Hill. And to answer your question, it was really Lauryn Hill that I think led me to become an artist myself, because even to this day, I still see myself as a fan first before an artist. I'll always be, a fan of the music first, a student of hip hop. But when it came to me even remotely thinking that I could do what I do now, I think it was honestly only due to the fact that I heard someone like Lauryn Hill growing up, just hearing her stories on her album Miseducation, and hearing the depth of the lyrics, hearing how raw the emotions were in her voice and in the storytelling. That made me feel, I remember hearing that for the first time, and it made me feel like, wow, like I didn't know that one person can bear their soul, in music. And I think that really, or rather that ultimately changed my perspective on how powerful music can be, and the fact that you can use it to really convey a message, but also to share who you are. And of course, after hearing Lauryn, I wanted to share who I was, because when I was a kid, I think being an immigrant and having migrated to the US from the Philippines at such a young age, I really lacked a lot of self-confidence. And I was really shy in school as well. And it was only really in music and in hip hop that I found some sort of voice. And honestly, it wasn't even my own voice at first. It was just hearing the voices again of people like Pac and Lauryn that empowered me. And so after hearing artists like that, not only did I feel like I want to do that too, but I also felt like I think I can do that too. And so I started writing poetry, and from there I started performing at different school events, whether it was open mics, poetry slams, just any chance that I could get to share the poetry that I was writing. And thankfully, by the time that I was a teenager, things like music websites where artists can independently upload their own music started existing on the internet. And that made it easy for me to just, with as simple as one click, share my music out there. And thankfully, from there, I feel like it's just been an ongoing journey. being able to showcase my stories through my lyrics and then uploading them on the internet for the world to essentially the world to hear. And I've just been very lucky that the response has been amazing, and I'm just excited to see what's next.
So how do you balance all of that you're doing and being a scientist at the same time?
That's a great question. To be honest, I've been asked that question several times, but it's never a simple answer for me to give, because it is an ongoing challenge. I think it would be remiss of me to not say that it's tough. I mean, it's a constant balancing act. And I think that a lot of people, that the three of you and even people who are tuned in, can relate to. I'm sure, especially for us being not only immigrants, but also when we're Filipinas, especially being Pinay, we all know what it feels like to have multiple responsibilities and to wear different hats. And that's the way that I look at it, being both a rapper and having a 9-to-5 job as a scientist, seeing my responsibilities in both, and also seeing how passionate I am in both. Because when you love what you do, I don't think that, you really see it as work at the end of the day. You just see it as something that gets you, through the day. And that's the same way that I look at it when I think about whether it's with science or whether it's with music. It's just things that I enjoy doing and things that I'm glad to be a part of. And honestly, Jen, like with and Rose and Mafe, like with this year in 2020, I think my job more than ever as a scientist has given me a new perspective on it. Before, it was just something that I had interest in as a little kid. I was always so interested in the sciences, and because I was curious growing up. And with this year, though, I don't see it just as a job anymore. I see it more of a commitment and a duty to my community, especially where we're at. I don't know if you guys have been keeping up with the news, but the cases are growing more and more. I think today was 175,000 cases in one day just for the United States. Like it's so wild. And I mentioned that to say that I don't see it as two things anymore where I have to choose between music or my 9-to-5. I see it as things that I want to do, but both at the same time. And I've just been very lucky that, I've had so many opportunities, even through my career within my 9-to-5 job. With this year as a performer, my access to a lot of stages and platforms that have been unavailable. And I would have never thought I'd end up on CNN Philippines this year because of my 9-to-5 job. So just even seeing something like that come into fruition for me was amazing to see.
That's great. Something you said earlier about having a duty and a responsibility, or a duty and a commitment to the community. I think that. I mean, I couldn't say it better than that. Like that is what. And I believe that you can have two purposes. You can have your 9-to-5, and you can have your, do what you love as well. And I do believe that you are able to do both of them at the same time. Some people think that, no, there's only one. But no, I think there's multiple hats. And I love how you described it. Very
I'm
cool.
glad that you mentioned that, by the way, because like I have some artist friends who I think through society or even through other people, they're told, like, basically, like, once you become a mother, like, you can't pursue your music. Like, people, or even not just even as an artist, but even just as careers. I think as women, sometimes we are taught that mentality that we have to choose one or the other. I mean, you're totally right. Like, we can do more than one thing.
Mm-hmm.
And we shouldn't shy away from having to choose one.
Yes, I totally agree with you. I mean, you can do both, and you can do anything. Actually, any woman can do anything they want to, as long as they put their heart and their mind and their soul into it. I have 2 little kids. I have 3 businesses. There's so many things, so many hats I wear and responsibilities. And same with you. Like I didn't even know you were a scientist. So I'm so excited to learn that about you. Yeah, that's just amazing. What college did you go to, or where did you graduate from, and how did you start that part?
So I went to UC Davis. As I mentioned earlier, like I was a big nerd growing up, and so honestly, I never even thought that music was going to be a viable career for me. So in the back of my head, I always had like, that traditional route of I'm going to go to this school. After that, I'm going to apply to A, B, and C, and then I'll have this kind of job, and then this is how I'll go up. And that was always I planned out that map or that route in my head, and then I'm just very grateful that music started, popping off in the last couple years, and it's given me the opportunity to do everything that I love.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And a little earlier, we talked about the rising numbers and within the pandemic, with the stages closing down and with things pausing temporarily. What else have you been doing? And are you working on anything as a scientist on trying to help that portion of the pandemic, or how is that looking for you? Like, what do you do besides music?
So in the last couple of months, obviously, like I mentioned earlier, like there's no concerts right now. I mean, like we're even lucky that we have something like KUMU to be able to still connect with people out there. So I was really, kind of put in a place where I'm like, well, what am I going to do now? What am I going to do for the rest of the year? And as that kind of started to wind down, I think around March, like my artist career, I saw my 9 to 5 job like ramp up so quickly within a couple of weeks. I remember, I think it was middle of March where they enforced the shelter in place here in California.
Mm-hmm.
And literally 2 days later, we get a mass email at work, and then our manager, who I rarely even see on a day-to-day basis, comes into our lab and talks to me and my coworkers directly, and he basically tells us that be prepared. We're going to be working a lot more hours in the coming months, and we're really going to have all hands on deck to help with these COVID test kits. So for spring, a lot of our resources at where I was working at were dedicated towards putting together COVID test kits. And just in these last few months, actually, we kind of shifted gears, and now we're doing a lot of testing to work in collaboration with other labs in finding the vaccine that everybody's waiting on.
Oh, wow.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And
wow.
intense, I'm sure. Everyone's counting on you guys.
No pressure.
No pressure. I was about to say
because, we are in LA right now, and it just feels like normal to me. Nobody's really, there's a heck of people outside, and no one's concerned about these rising numbers. I honestly feel like it's going to get shut down pretty soon.
Yeah, that's what I was just saying to people earlier, like to my partner and to friends, like in a group text. I was telling them, guys, I think we're about to be in another shelter in place sometime soon, like maybe even before the holidays. I don't know if you guys saw too, like with New York, they're now enforcing a curfew. So I think things are slowly kind of returning to how it was back in spring. And honestly, I wouldn't mind being in another shelter in place. And if I were to be truly honest, I think it should even be nationwide. I think the only way we can really beat this is if everybody is on board in fighting COVID. I think for the most part, this country has kind of been, some people have been on the fence, and there's just not much agreement when it comes to how we should tackle, this pandemic, specifically in America. And it's like I can't wrap my head around it, because like the numbers aren't lying. I mean, we're doing the work at my job. This isn't a hoax. Like, we're doing these things on a day-to-day basis. I work with inactive version of these viruses. It's like, this is real, guys. Like we really need to I think all do our part and be responsible and make sure that at the end of the day, we need to realize that I'm not just responsible for taking care of my health, but also taking care of the health of the people around me. For example, if I don't wear a mask, that affects the people who I'm with. And I think it really just comes down to people realizing that,
Mhm.
people were informed, I think, about this virus, and also people also recognizing that this isn't just affecting one person. This isn't just affecting you. It affects everybody, affects the whole community.
Agree. There you have it. Everybody wear your mask, even though we're
Wear your mask and everyone go to the store and buy all the toilet paper.
yeah. No, don't do that. Don't do
And
that. We're gonna be
water.
okay.
And pasta and ramen, all the bad crap.
No, we are going to be okay because we have people like Ruby working and doing their best to help.
No, but we have to stay home.
Yes,
Buy the
and
toilet paper.
everybody too. Please stay home. And LA, it's not that bad. Everybody's wearing masks. They're doing their part. But yeah, people are going out and doing what's productive. They're going out and eating and stuff like that. But yeah, we really got to do our part too. So very cool. But let's talk about your music. What projects are you working on, and how can we help you? How can we support you?
I'm working on multiple projects right now. The first one that I'd like to mention is this docu-film that I just released with Evelyn Obamos, who is on this In Her Purpose show recently. We released it last month for CAM's screening for Filipino American History Month. And so the film is called 7,000 Miles Homecoming, and it's co-directed by Evelyn Obamos, and it features me and my band, the Balikbayans. And what the film is basically about is last March 2019, me and my band and Evelyn all hopped on one plane together, and we all landed in Manila, and we were there for 5 days. And it was a series of shows while we were out there. Initially we planned the trip because I wanted the band to perform with me at the Malasimbo Festival, which is held annually at Puerto Galera. And I performed at the Malasimbo Festival before, and I was telling the band, like, you guys have to be part of this. It's such an amazing experience. It's located at such a beautiful place, and I really wanted them to see and experience what it was like to be immersed in the Philippine music scene. I don't know if you guys have been back recently, Rose and Jen, but I'm sure Mafe has shared with you all, but the music scene, especially when it comes to hip hop in the Philippines, has been thriving so much in the last couple of years. And there's just, I can't even begin to really explain how incredible the artists are over there. The MCs, the lyricists, the writers, the battle rappers. They have such a beautiful hip hop scene over there. And so when me and my band visited Manila, they were all like, honestly, everybody was just speechless to witness how creative the scene was, how thriving it was, and just how everybody was pushing not only the music, but the Filipino culture forward in terms of what it meant to incorporate your culture and your identity in your music. And so after Malasimbo, we also hit up Wish Bus, which is up on YouTube. And we also got to perform at this venue called Sagio, is where I also met Mafe. And, it was just an incredible experience. I think something that we'll obviously all cherish until me and the band are old and gray. But what I really took away from that experience was that it was beyond music. I think what all of us didn't really expect was that trip really changed us. When we came back to San Francisco, honestly, me and the Balikbayans, we not only were we different artists, but we also felt like different people, like we had grown. And for the first time, I think we all collectively agreed that we essentially earned the name Balikbayans, to have returned to the Philippines together. And so, I want to close it by saying that this documentary goes beyond music. It also asks the questions of, what is my responsibility as a Filipino American? What does it mean, and what does it feel like to be a Balikbayan? How can I connect, my identity and who I am here in the U.S. with my family back home and my roots back home, and ultimately, of course, the question of, where is home? How do you define home? Because I know for myself, who is a 1.5 generation Philam, that's always been my question growing up. I've never felt Filipino enough. I've never felt American enough. I was always in this middle ground where I asked myself, how can I break out of this sentiment and feeling of being the hyphen in the Filipino American identity? And I think we got the opportunity to further explore, that question once we got back there, because it was a different dynamic, bringing, not only going to the Philippines as a Phil-Am, but performing music from Circa 91 that talks about immigration, and hearing that response, it felt different to perform those songs over there.
Yeah.
And so in addition to the documentary, I've also been working on my sophomore album. It's not quite done yet. I'm still, making sure that the songs are all up to par with how I like it to be. I definitely want this next album to be bigger and, of course, better than the last one. That as an artist, I think that's the only hope that we have for ourselves, is to be better than you were yesterday. And so I want to make more melodic music. I've been exploring different kinds of sounds. So I'll just say that I'll just summarize it by saying that this next album doesn't sound similar to the last one sonically, but the lyrics and the storytelling are still there.
Very cool. I'm really excited about that. So Ruby, tell us, what does living in your purpose look like? And do you believe you are living in your purpose?
I think this is probably my favorite question yet. And of course, I can't be on this show with you guys without talking about purpose. So when I think about the word purpose, I think of motivation. What comes to mind is motivation, like what gets you up in the morning, or what keeps you up late at night. And for me, when I think of purpose, I can confidently say that my purpose is music. I've never felt more like I'm doing exactly what I should be doing than those moments that I'm, like in these pictures, that those moments that I'm on stage or I'm in front of a crowd. And really nothing compares to being able to feel like you have a voice. I mean, like I mentioned earlier, I never felt like I had a voice until I found music. And so for me, when I hear a question like that, I ultimately think my purpose is to be an artist. My purpose is to be a writer. And I think more specifically than that, my purpose is to make sure that I'm 100% authentic in telling those stories. Because I think as an artist, the most important thing that you can do is to change or to inspire. I think, we're often, especially, the times that we're in, sometimes we get lost in the amount of views that we get. We get lost in how many followers, like that number count that we see. And for me, I try not to focus on that. My purpose and my goal every time I'm out here, owning that title as an artist, is to at least have one person out there that comes across my music to have them either challenge their thinking, or to have them think more critically, or to inspire them in some way. And that's the purpose, the sense of purpose that I have every morning that I wake up, is to go out there and to inspire.
Very cool. I love that too. You're amazing. You are paving the way for people, or for other women who want to do that but are scared to do it. And so you should really, I applaud you for that. That's amazing work, Ruby. So tell us where we can find you. Tell us, and after that, please tell us how you can, or what you can tell the girls or women who are inspired by you, who want to do what you do. What are some advices you give them, and what are some tips or tricks or any secrets you need to let them know about how to do it?
So for everybody that's tuned in, if you'd like to follow more of my work, you can check out my website, rubyibarra.com. And on social media, and especially on KUMU, I'm at RUBYIBARRA at Ruby Ibarra. And to answer your question about giving advice to people who want to do the kind of work that I do, the best advice and the advice that I typically like to say is to never compromise. And that's something that I carry with me, whether I was at an open mic or whether I was filming a TV commercial for the Grammys and the Super Bowl, was to never compromise who I was and to make sure that my integrity was reflected in the work that I was doing, and my integrity was also reflected in the type of music that I was making or whatever words were coming out of my mouth. And I think, again, bringing it back to kind of the times that we're in, I think aside from focusing on the amount of views or wanting to go viral these days, I think a lot of us also get lost in the mix of thinking that you have to sound a certain way or you have to portray yourself in a certain way, especially the fact that on the internet it's heavily saturated. There's so many people that's streaming right now. There's so many people that's performing. There's so many people that is just constantly that you're able to view on a daily basis. And what I want to remind people who also want to become an artist is that don't focus on all of that. Don't feel like you need to sound a certain way or you need to look a certain way, because ultimately the more that you're authentic, the more that you're yourself, the more that you're original, not only will people notice that, but you'll at the end of the day you'll feel like you're going to be more proud of your work because you never had to change who you were. And you're also going to be able to celebrate your work because you know that that's 100% you. I think when you're doing something that you're not completely comfortable with and that's not completely aligned with your vision or who you are as a person, it just feels different. And you know deep inside when you're not yourself. And so I want to close that by saying that authenticity is key, honesty is key, and especially if you want to become an artist, our art should always reflect our life, should always reflect who we are, and that's I think that's the type of music that's also going to last. And I think that's why people like Tupac, people like Kendrick Lamar, people like Lauryn Hill are so celebrated, because they were themselves, and they shared their true stories, and people saw that, and people saw themselves in that. And that's basically why I think it's important to just be yourself, because people are going to be able to see themselves in you.
Yes, very cool.
Ruby, who's your favorite rapper? I just wanted to know, who's your favorite rapper, Ruby?
My favorite rapper?
Yeah.
Romeo.
No.
and it's not Lil Romeo too. It's Romeo. Is he tuned in today?
He's probably asleep right now.
Already? Yeah. My favorite rappers, it always rotates. I know when people like list their top 5 dead or alive, it rotates, but at the top of the list, it will always include Pac and Lauren.
Yes.
Those are mine.
Yeah,
Mine's Tupac.
Yeah. Just fun fact. Well, not really. I don't know if it's a fun fact, but my last concert before COVID or before the pandemic was the Lauryn Hill and her and Lauryn Hill concert. It was
my God. That would have been amazing. Yeah. Did they perform together?
Yeah. Her opened for Lauryn Hill.
Oh my God. I can only imagine how soulful that was.
Yes, I will. It'll be always close to my heart because it was fun. It was just a great night. And then a couple months later, this happened. So, but that's okay because I will always remember it.
Yeah. And one more thing. So before we hopped on here, I was actually talking to BJ, who was in the Philharmonic, and we were talking about you because he's like, "Oh, are you going out tonight?" And I was like, "Are you kidding me? No, no one should be going out at during COVID because I'm kidding. I know no one's going out." But then he asked us, what are you guys doing? Like, why are you like getting ready? Where are you going? I said, oh, we're going to interview Ruby. And he goes, oh, that's so dope. Like, I love her. And I said, would you collaborate with her? And he's like, oh my God, really?
What? That would be amazing.
Yeah, he's like, really?
I love the harmonic.
Well, this is the manager right here.
Make it happen.
Rose will book it up. So watch out for that collaboration, guys. I have to add that you have such an amazing fan base on KUMU. I've been watching all the comments throughout, and for the ones in KUMU, just wait because we have an after party there after this interview. So make sure you guys tune in. We'll be there after this stream on Facebook, but we do have to also acknowledge everyone on Facebook who's tuned in. Thank you for the support for In Her Purpose show. We are grateful for Ruby for everything that she has shared. But again, before we close up and wrap up, Ruby, please remind everybody where they can find you, and perhaps add when your weekly shows are happening on KUMU so that they can also mark their calendars.
So for everybody tuned in, thank you again. I'm actually also logged in. So shout out to Slacky, shout out to everybody that's here. I just want to say thank you to the three of you for letting me be part of this live stream. Again, I've been such a big fan of the conversations that you guys have had previously. And I think it's just so important more than ever to have something like this to showcase women not only doing the work that they do, but living their purpose. I think what 2020 has taught me more than anything is to make sure that I live in my purpose, because life is short. As this year has shown us, we don't know what tomorrow is going to look like. Things can change, quickly, just like that. And so it's important that we continue to live our purpose. And if you guys want to follow me, I'm at Ruby Ibarra on Twitter, Instagram, and of course KUMU. I watch out for my sophomore album is coming out soon. 7,000 Miles Homecoming docu-film will be at a city near you, and hopefully streaming also. And if you want to catch my KUMU shows, it's every Tuesday and Thursday if you're in California, and Wednesday and Friday if you're in Manila.
And you have a Thanksgiving concert coming up, right?
And I have a Thanksgiving concert coming up on November 25th, 10 p.m. to 12 midnight California time.
And sorry, I just know your bio. Merry Christmas. You have something fun with your Balikbayan band coming up too. Right? I think you're on mute. Yeah.
Oh, I think the audio is
lagging. Okay, so I think me and my husband has been having for you guys December, and just watch her. Hello.
It sounds like the moo.
That's right now, guys.
Anyway,
I love this photo cafe.
Oh my goodness. So thanks, Ruby, for being part of In Her Purpose show. I know we will hop on KUMU. Ladies, Rose and Jen, are we doing our trivia here so that the Facebook audience can also be part of this? Yes? Jen? Rose? You can hear me, right? I think it's them. So normally on In Her Purpose show, we have a trivia where the ladies give away a copy of their In Her Purpose book. So Ruby, maybe you have a trivia for everyone tuned in that you want to ask them so that they can be, one of the, they can have their own copy of In Her Purpose. So it can be multiple choice or anything you've shared here. But go ahead.
Okay. I guess if you guys can share at least what was my answer when it was asked what advice I have for artists. What was your guys' takeaway from that? I guess that's my question.
Okay, so everyone on Facebook, you can answer that question, and then you can also follow Ruby, Jen and Rose in Her Purpose, also on KUMU, and that is, that's just how simple it will be. Okay, so we all good, ladies? It's always fun times with live stream, so bear with us, guys. But again, we will announce the winner, I guess, on KUMU, so make sure that you hop on over there. So Ruby, we'll see you over there on KUMU for our after party interview.
Thank
so
you.
Have a good night. We'll see you soon.
So Jen and Rose, what another amazing episode with Ruby Ibarra.
Did you hear? We were having technical difficulties. Or like, what was happening? But I think we're good now. But yeah, no, Ruby was amazing. She is amazing. She's talented. She's smart. She knows what she's talking about. She's wonderful.
She's a gangster.
Yeah, she got it.
True gangster.
So to repeat her trivia question, what was her advice, or what was your takeaway from what she shared to make it through your journey of life, and how to be, I guess, successful in that sense? So share with Jen and Rose. We will announce the winner on KUMU in our after party interview with Ruby Ibarra. So stay tuned there. But ladies, before we go, please share with everyone where they can find In Her Purpose book and the upcoming events and the marketplace that we have.
Yes.
Yeah, so you can find us on our website at inherpurpose.com, and our book can be found on Amazon and Barnes & Noble, and soon to be on our marketplace, which Rose will tell you more about.
Yes, so we're going to launch on November 23rd a In Her Purpose marketplace where we are supporting and collaborating with some of the women in the book and other people outside of the book who have really, really great purpose and passion around products, and something that
I got the
super cute earrings, and be out there for anybody to help and support our community, and hopefully you guys will be able to sign on or check it out on the 23rd. I'll let you know what the address is then. A little closer to then.
And then and don't forget, guys, follow In Her Purpose social media platforms, and that's where we will announce everything else that is upcoming. So we'll see you at KUMU, guys, and thank you again for tuning in another episode of In Her Purpose Show. See you later.